Not yet.
Still scared. We are live. Good morning, everyone. It is March 23rd. This is Victory Loves Company. I am James Lynch. He is Jim West. Sorry for that little stumble off the top. It happens. It's like, when a sprinter's going and he kind of takes a step ahead. That's kind of what happened there. But Jim, how are you? How's everything? Congratulations on the big win last week for Max Griffin.
Yeah, it's been a good few months, busy months. Max looked great, just at home now. And this week we've got some local fights finally. It's been about a little over a year since I've seen a regional fight. So we're traveling to Logan, Utah for Mountain Force 27 this Saturday night. I've got 4 guys going over there. So it's good to be busy again for not just the UFC, but for our local guys. So it's a good time right now.
Well, 2 quick things. First thing is, how crazy is it that I've seen regional MMA before you, right? And second,
wow, yeah, that is crazy.
Which, if you think about it, is kind of crazy, right? And then also, Shaylor Ladd is on the card. If you guys haven't seen my interview with Shaylor, great stuff. Brother of Aspen Ladd, huge, the big little brother, as you guys call him. I really loved that interview last week. I got to do with him, so he's going to be fighting on there along with Rose Namajunas' brother, right? It's a family affair on the card coming up here in Utah this weekend.
Yeah, you know what's crazy, Jay, about Shaylor? So he's been through 5 opponent changes.
Oh, really? Okay.
And it's ridiculous up until yesterday. So now he's fighting at heavyweight. So
okay.
he was going to fight all the way down to 200. Now he's fighting up to heavyweight. This is his 5th opponent. And it's crazy. Like, the opponents are giving the most nonsense excuses, like, oh, well, wait a minute, that's Aspen Ladd's brother. Or, oh, that's MMA Gold. Or, oh, man, he trains with Anthony Hernandez. I saw him training. Or Max Rivoda. It's like, dude, they're amateurs, for crying out loud. You're not fighting them. You're fighting Shaylor Ladd, who's
it doesn't count on your record.
Debut. Like, come on, man. Like, if you don't, that's the funny thing about regional MMA. Everyone wants to be a fighter until it's time to be a fighter, right? Like,
very true. Well, it's like I told you a couple weeks ago on that Rise card. Guy didn't want to fight after opponent missed weight by 1.5 pounds. Like, it's crazy,
Then that guy doesn't want to fight.
Exactly. There you go. Someone who doesn't have to worry about finding multiple opponents is our next guest, Felicia Spencer. There's only a couple of fighters in her division right now. We're going to welcome her on here. Amanda, if you want to bring on Felicia to the program. Good morning, Felicia. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Of course. Thanks for doing this in the clutch. This was kind of a last minute thing, but thank you so much for joining us. Before we start, I always ask our guests, because this is early in the morning here on the West Coast, what is your morning routine, Felicia? What do you do every morning when you get up?
I wake up usually around 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'm Eastern time, and just kind of slowly get going. I make coffee for the family, and usually have to let my dog out and give him attention because he's very whiny. So,
Felicia, are you a cold brew person like James over here, or are you just a regular
I like
coffee?
Cold brew, but I just have my coffee maker and the ground coffee. So I mean, I like it, but it's just.
Yeah, James swears by it. James swears by this.
Yeah, I love it. No, I have it. I have it even when it's in the winter here. It's not a big deal. It's convenient for me. You know what it is, honestly, Jim, is that I can do the cold coffee. I can put it in the fridge, and then when I get up in the morning, it's there and done. Like, if I put the kettle on in the morning, I might wake up other people in my household. I don't want to be doing that, right? So that's part of it as well. And plus, I love the taste of it. Like, black coffee with stevia, nothing better than that.
I like the black coffee. I go back and forth, but I do get to order. I order Tim Hortons ground coffee on Amazon.
We talked about this last time. I remember that. So still, see, there you go. You're keeping your Canadian roots by getting the Tim Hortons coffee. Jim, have you had Tim Hortons coffee before? Because they do have some in the U.S.
No, is it like super strong or something?
No, it's just Tim Hortons is like Dunkin' Donuts basically in the U.S.
Okay.
It's like a huge chain out here. So yeah, pretty much if you're Canadian, you're familiar with Tim Hortons. So before I lose half my audience talking about coffee here,
I don't know, we might gain some members. There's a lot of coffee.
Maybe we'll get some coffee sponsors here. We'll see. I'm still looking for that right now. But Felicia, first and foremost, glad to see you get a fight. I know there's a bit of uncertainty last year after you fought Amanda Nunes, whether what was going to happen. So when did you find out you were going to fight Danyelle Wolf? Because this fight's in May, and like I said, you haven't fought since June. I know you had the Submission Underground fight in between there, but when did you find out about this fight?
I think it was about a month ago, maybe a little less. Not long before news somehow leaked out, pretty much. So it was a while. I was asking a little sooner, like what do you have in mind? Just like keep me in mind, don't forget about me. But I didn't want to end up coming back too soon either. So it all worked out, and I'm happy with the timeline. even though it'll almost have been a whole year since I stepped in there, but it doesn't feel like it to me. So
it's weird. Isn't that weird, Felicia? Sometimes you get the call from Nick or whatever. It's like, hey, do you want to fight on this date? And then you'll be sitting there talking, and then 2 minutes later, you see it announced on social media. You're like, how the hell? I just found out about this. How'd you guys find out?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's funny. It's bizarre.
Well, and the interesting thing too, and I mean, we just got to talk about the optics of this. You're fighting Danyelle Wolf. Were you expecting to fight here just looking down the roster? Because I was saying this to someone else. The equivalent of you fighting Danyelle Wolf is like Josh Parisian, who just won a Contender Series, fighting Daniel Cormier. Like that almost is the equivalent, because you just fought Nunes for the title. Now you're fighting a girl coming off her debut. Were you sort of expecting that just looking down the roster, or were you surprised to fight her?
I was thinking it back when she fought, and then there was some time that went by where it was, not sure. I kind of equate it more to like a Randy Couture fighting James Toney, like just kind of.
That's good point. Boxer, because she does have the boxing experience. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like I'm in a division obviously that needs a little bit of like spice in it, so it's just like a weird matchup. People talk about it, whether they have good things to say or bad things to say about it. It's like it's interesting, So to me, it's like the same position that the heavyweight division was in back when that happened, and they're just trying to make things happen. So it is what it is. Definitely more. I think there's probably more pressure on me to win than her, but I've been in a win-win position before, just like she is right now, and fully expecting to win.
Let's talk about that 45-pound division. It's funny is I talked to Aspen a lot about that division, and if you look at a lot of the girls right in that 35-pound division, a lot of them really probably should be 45-pounders. I mean, they kill themselves right to make 35. It seems crazy to me, and in my opinion, we always talk, and James and I always banter back and forth and about the whole thing is I think there should be a little modification relative to the women's divisions. That way you can have a lot more super fights, right? Like maybe it's I don't know what it's like for you to make 45, but if there's somewhere where the weight classes change 5 pounds here or there to kind of make it a little bit more, or a lot of these girls, they go up to 45. I don't know. It just seems like it'd be a lot more healthy. You get a lot more opportunity to fight a bunch of different people. I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems kind of odd that I haven't heard anything about them getting rid of it, but I hope they don't. I don't know. Speaking of that Amanda Nunes fight, what were your takeaways from Amanda?
From her last fight?
When you fought Amanda, because it's been a while, of course, right? But like, what are some of your? I'm sure there's people always wondering, like, what are your takeaways from fighting her physically, mentally? What was your take on her after 5 rounds of,
I think her mental game is really, and not that she's like intimidating or anything like that. She's so confident. And she's so confident that she doesn't have to rush anything, like she's just like waiting there, smiling, waiting for that moment when, when you stop, when you want to make a mistake or whatever. She's just waiting and ready. So it is kind of strange how patient she is. And obviously her power is unique, like when you get hit by Amanda, it's definitely something different that you can't really prepare for either, but you just have to be, like in a position to make yourself safe and try to keep pushing your game plan forward. But for me, it was like, wow, she's so patient, and it comes from her being so confident that she can win at any point,
Right. When you say power, are you talking about her punching power or her physical strength, or both?
Like her punching power. Yeah, I think her punching power was definitely the thing that was a little unique for me. It was definitely the hardest that I had been hit. To the head anyway. And then, that kind of like makes you fall off your game, or for me, is once you start to take some damage and it's like you're one step behind, in the game. And then, looking back, I didn't get her to the cage. Like every opponent, I get them to the cage, but I didn't get her to the cage. Like why? I wasn't really thinking about that, like there was just things that I wasn't there thinking about after the first couple of rounds went by, and then and then it was almost like just survival, so after a while, it got to be that, which was a new experience for me, and something I think I I think I've learned a lot and I've grown a lot. So I'm glad that I took a lot of time off and, just kind of breaking things down and really just rebuilding my strategy.
That sounds
quickly.
like
Shout
a
out
bad.
to Dino. I was going to mention, sorry, Jim. We
Yeah.
got Dino in the chat. Just wanted to give him a quick
Oh,
shout out.
yeah.
He was on our show last week. Love Dino. Felicia, you kind of touched on it there. And not that I'm trying to pit anyone against each other, but do you feel like Amanda hits harder than Chris Cyborg? Like, what was the difference between fighting the two? Because you're one of the few girls that's done that's fought both Amanda Nunes and Chris Cyborg.
I would say maybe it was just the length of the fight, but I feel like Amanda hit harder, like with the headshots. But I do feel like Chris Cyborg got me with some body shots that were just like, a whole nother level. Just, if the round wasn't almost over, it would have been, a different story for her or for me during that one.
I'll say this. I think Danyelle Wolf is in deep shit. That's my opinion.
Well, like I was saying, though, you just don't see that too often where someone's making their UFC debut against someone that just fought for the title. It's just, it's kind of crazy from that perspective. Again, I know she has a lot of boxing experience, but I mean, Felicia, what's your bread and butter, your ground game? I mean, we saw that against Megan Anderson, right? Where you just went out there and got the quick win. So, I mean, I know she has some jiu-jitsu as well. I know that she does have a bit of a background there, but I mean, if she's known as a boxer, obviously I would think the game plan is to utilize your ground game because I imagine you feel more superior there, but not going to give you any game plan here, right? So.
No, that definitely would make sense.
Yes, exactly. Just looking on paper, I don't think I'm saying anything on the line.
I'm doing well against tall opponents that strike. So I think, I don't overlook her though. Like I know she's been training, ready to fight MMA for a while, and she's an athlete. She's been an athlete for a long time. So experience doesn't mean everything, although it does mean something.
So I touched on Megan Anderson there. What did you think of her performance against Amanda Nunes? I was a little surprised only in the sense that obviously Amanda always had the opportunity to take it to the ground and submit her, but I kind of felt like Amanda was going to show off her stand-up a bit more, but at the same time, she's probably like, you know what, I'm not getting paid by the hour. Let's go in there and get out. What did you think of that win by Amanda Nunes over Megan?
I was kind of surprised that Megan wasn't more like the confidence thing again. Like you could kind of tell she
looked scared,
struck a little bit without even before she got hit, or especially after. And, kind of to your point, like, well, maybe Amanda didn't mean to go to the ground because Megan shot on her. So she was defending the takedown and that's in a good position, So it was a little anticlimactic, I guess, for me. I was thinking it could be a little different, but again, like once you're, facing Amanda Nunes, it's different sometimes. So
for sure, one of the best ever.
She did look a little bit off though, walking to the cage. Like Megan,
I was just going to mention that. Yeah, what did you think of her walk to the cage? Dana White posted. I don't know. First off, I don't know why Dana posted that video. I guess just because it was a title fight and whatever. But they showed that shot of Megan walking to the cage, like coming into the arena. And I mean, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a fighter, obviously, but she looked like not good, like at all. Like it just, I don't know. Did you catch that of her walking into the cage? She looked very like, I don't know, like nervous, and it was very odd. I don't know. I just that was my take on it.
I remember her seeming really like, nervous. But some fighters are just like that. Like Holly Holm, she's always so nervous, like antsy, and like that's just her energy that she needs to perform, But I guess Megan did have a different demeanor. It wasn't like excited energy. It was like down energy. So it's strange. Fighting is weird.
No, it's a different breed for sure. Where do you think? I mean, obviously, it seems like Megan's no longer with the UFC. Do you see her going to say a Bellator? Do you think just playing armchair sort of matchmaker here? Do you see her maybe making a run over a Bellator just because it seems like they have a pretty established featherweight division, or do you think she goes elsewhere? Because we haven't really heard much since that fight.
I can see her going to Bellator. I don't see why they wouldn't try to pick her up. They have a pretty established division, and they have featherweight fights going on all the time. If she wanted to go to lightweight, there's always PFL, I know they just started the season, but she could jump in if someone got injured, So I think she's got a couple. I think those would be the two obvious options, I guess.
Yeah. I think she would be a bigger name in Bellator, right? I mean, it's funny, like you see some of the matchups, like I saw, not throwing shade on anyone, but I saw Kat Zingano was matched up with, I have no idea who the hell.
The girl in Invicta, the one who has the padded record. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's like,
Olivia Parker, I think.
Yeah, and you see that a lot, right? I mean, there's a lot of girls, right? But there's like that 5 or 6 that are pretty darn good, and then there's like, I'm like, I don't know, because if Bellator is going to keep the division, which they are, I mean, I think there's a lot of talent out there, like real talent that they can bring over and really kind of make that a really big division, right? Like, but because I saw Cats and Ghana, I'm like that's.
I think they're trying to get her like a highlight reel finish or something. That's my guess to set up the Cyborg fight would be my guess. Because and by the way, if Kat's fighting her, then Leslie Smith's probably fighting Cyborg, I would think, right?
Again?
Oh,
sure. Yeah, but that's like who else is Cyborg going to fight? Unless I think Julia Budd already has a fight booked. They're not going to do that rematch right away. So I think it's probably going to be Leslie Smith.
How long do you think Cyborg's going to continue to? I'll ask you both this question. How long do you think Cyborg's going to continue to be around? That's the question.
I think she'll go to boxing.
Yeah. What about Amanda Nunes? How long do you think Amanda's going to be around?
Well, we'll get both those on Felicia's end. What do you think on both?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know how old they are. I know they're well, Nunes is younger, I believe, but
yeah,
I could see Cyborg being done pretty soon. Like just because she clears out the division, or I don't know. Nunes. Maybe when she starts to take some damage, she'll retire. I don't know. Like, why stop until you start getting, hurt?
What about this? How do you think this affects it? Because Amanda Nunes hasn't gone down 35 since 2019. Yeah. I think she's a totally different fighter at 135 than she is at 145. I think
that's a good point. She didn't have her best performance against Jermaine in the rematch. I agree with you there, Jim. Yeah.
I think it's a different physicality that she can bring at 35 versus 45. I don't know. It's interesting because she's got to do one or the other, right? Like, I don't know.
Well, not necessarily, Jim, because again, Felicia's the only featherweight fight booked right now, right? There's no other fights. So if Felicia, even if you have your fight, Amanda could go fight at 135, and then until they figure out what's next. Like, if you win your fight, I don't think you're going to get a rematch against Nunes. Just guessing here. Like, what are they going to do? That's what I mean. They need more fighters. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird to think about, like, because you're right. She needs to go to 35 and defend that belt. But how many times more does she want to cut to 35? Maybe that's the question that we should think about. And like you said earlier, I really thought when I got signed to the UFC that some of those 35ers were going to be like, I'll fight her. Like, I'll go up and fight her.
Why wouldn't they move up? Yeah. I mean, you're in this logjam right now. Why not, break yourself from the pack? Someone in the top 10 could easily move up, and then you're a couple fights away from potentially fighting for the title. Like, isn't that why everyone's in this sport? I don't know. It just seems
right. Yeah. So I was surprised that people didn't do that when they had the opportunity to, because like you said, you can fight for a title a lot quicker. You have way less people to get through. So
I know Aspen for one. She's like, I'll fight at both. It doesn't matter. It's funny is when Aspen cuts to 35, she weighs way more than she would if she were to fight at 45 at Fight Night. Way more. Like, it's drastic, right? Like, so it's funny. You're like, a lot of these 35ers are in the same thing, right? And Amanda's probably the same way. I got to assume that Amanda probably comes in when she fights at 45 because she's not cutting a ton. My guess she's probably maybe walks at like 160-ish would be my guess. So she's probably weighing at like 55 maybe. So it's funny because I don't know. You're right though, Felicia. I just don't understand why you don't see some of these 35ers who are big. Like, why not? Because you can fight back to back, right? Like you can cut the 35 and then, there's a 45 that falls out. Cool. I don't have to cut a ton of weight back to back. Let's go to 45.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we just don't know. Like, maybe there's the matchmakers are pressuring them to do one thing, or to stay bantamweight, or I don't know. Like,
well, and they had a whole tough season, and they didn't even get a featherweight out of it, right? They all moved down to 35. So that I think that as well. I mean, they made a small attempt at trying to build the division that way, but it's very odd to see kind of just how it's sort of been forgotten to a certain degree. And I hate to talk about this, Felicia, because we've talked even before you got in the UFC. It seemed like there was a lot of opportunity there, but like I said, there's 3 people in the division now. I think you, Amanda, Danyelle. And I think Leah Letson fights at 145. I could be wrong about that, but there's like,
I believe so, and that's who I thought that they were waiting for her to to be ready to fight.
She's had some health issues. I know that's why she's been out for so long. She's finally got that under control, I think. But it's
so
they need to sign some more.
Lined up with her, but that was just by default,
Yeah, no,
so hopefully she'll get back in there. I think she's a pretty cool girl.
Switching gears a bit, the pandemic obviously hit us last year. I know you were a gym owner, you have a gym. How's that been affected in terms of everything? Because at least you're in Florida. It seems like they're a little bit more liberal with that stuff as opposed to, some of the other states that are really on lockdown. California, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, the owners of the gym really just they took like every precaution that they like had to do and more, like as far as they installed hand washing stations and temperature checks, and you know, when they had to stay distant, they had like tape on the floor and bags and sprays and all kinds of stuff, the whole 9 yards, and doors were open a lot. But things have been pretty much back to normal for a while as far as like, you know, we can grapple, we can spar, like, you know, the classes are back to back again. And I mean, like, people wear a mask walking in, and then pretty much when you get on the mat, it's like, all right, masks are off. So it's kind of strange. Like, we just kind of have to trust everybody there to make good decisions elsewhere, you know. So, but whenever someone suspects that they've come in contact with COVID, they're like, all right, I'm out, not going to the gym for 2 weeks or whatever, you know. At least we assume that everyone's following the same, you know, responsibility.
Do you have to wear masks when you're training?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Like, we walk
yeah.
in the door with it, but then like all the doors are open usually, and yeah, and you can. It's not like you can't wear one, but most people just don't. Cause, you know.
No, it's understandable. The reason I bring it up is because here in Vancouver, like, we're allowed to go work out, but you have to wear a mask. So, for example, I went for a run this morning. I had to wear my mask, which I'm fine with. Like, whatever, it's all good. Like, I'll follow the rules. I'm just glad it's open, because this time last year it wasn't. I was having to work out in my garage, which is not very fun.
We don't do that at our gym, but you know me, I'm kind of a scofflaw. I just give the big
in
old
case you haven't
finger.
noticed, Felicia, Jim's a little grumpy.
I don't give the big middle finger to our governor. I don't even wear a mask. I get yelled at all the time, but I'm like, whatever, yell at me. I ain't wearing it. At the gym, walking into the gym, wherever.
You know, you guys definitely had a lot for so long too. Like, you guys had a lot of restrictions still for so long. Like, we've been pretty open. So I feel like it's easier to like wear a mask at the store when you don't have to like wear a mask. Like, you know, when the restrictions are just a little less, I feel like it's easier to be like, all right, yeah, I'll do that. You know, no big deal. It's just, man, it's crazy. Things are crazy. I've been hoping that I can go to that UFC event here in Florida.
I was gonna say, yeah, they're allowing fans, which is gonna be great.
Yeah.
So
that'll be good.
Yeah, that'll be cool. And just far enough from my fight that I'm not worried if I, you know, catch, you know, that I won't be able to fight if I get COVID, you know, that kind of thing. So.
Yeah. How's your family doing back in Canada? Do you ever keep in touch with them? Because I know they're in Quebec. I think Montreal is one of the heaviest hit, I think, with COVID in Canada. So.
Yeah. Well, I have my grandparents, my aunts and uncles there, and you know, they're on pretty good lockdown. I mean, my uncle goes to work, and my grandmother lives in like a senior living complex, and like they weren't allowed to leave. Like, I think she just was allowed to go like outside, you know, something like that. So my parents are really itching to get out there and visit their family, you know, like visit their parents. I mean.
Well, yeah, I was saying this. I haven't been to the U.S. since this thing started, and I live 5 minutes away from the U.S. border in Washington State, but I can't go over there to get gas, which is way cheaper than in Canada. I don't know if you know this. BC has the highest highest gas prices, I think, in Canada. It's ridiculous. We're paying like $1.50. It's crazy. So it's nuts. Anyways, that's my little rant.
Hopefully they'll be able to get up there soon. I mean, me too, but you know, especially my parents, they go every year usually. So.
That's true as well. Sticking with Canada, I wanted to mention this is something we were talking about all off air. Narcan, which is, I know, something you're very much an advocate for. Why don't you talk a little bit about that and some of the ways it helps a lot of people?
Yeah, and so there is a documentary out, I think, on Netflix about Narcan, and it's based in Vancouver. And I know it's been so basically Narcan is something that can stop an opioid overdose. And I have a box of it here. It's the brand name for the drug naloxone. And it's a nasal spray, and you can get it at any pharmacy without a prescription, or a lot of places, like in Florida, every county has a facility you can get it for free. You just walk in and ask for it, they give it to you. And what I do is I just keep mine in my glove box. Basically, it's just something that you can have around, and if someone around you is having an overdose, you can save their life. And I learned a lot about, just how overdoses work, and just like a lot about this topic recently. And one thing that really struck me is that I always thought if someone did a drug that was going to kill them, they would die as soon as they did the drug. Like, oh, that's too much, done, Right. But what actually happens is it can take over an hour, up to 3 hours for that person to stop functioning and die from it. So you can have someone in your family out somewhere, do a drug, come home, and then hours later die, and like if you have this, you can save their life. So this is definitely something that's, I get a little bit like worked up talking about it sometimes because it's just such a big topic for so many families, and it actually hit my family pretty hard recently. And this is actually something that if I had this box 6 months ago, I could have saved a life. And it was, something that struck me pretty hard that I just wasn't ready for that moment, and I could have been, so I really want to share that with people and just be like, this is not something for a drug addict to have. This is for people who are around a drug addict,
addicts,
or
yeah,
around
giving them
someone that might
support.
be recovering, or around someone that might experiment with the drug, that's for us to have to save the life, potentially. So definitely
And it's a
something that I wanted
spray?
to, it's a nasal spray. This is, they have injections too, but this is the one that is easiest to use. It's super easy actually. When you open it, you just put it up someone's nose, spray it, and it starts to work. There's 2 doses, and then obviously you still have to call like 911. It's still an emergency if someone's overdosing, because it can work for like 30 minutes, and then depending on how bad of an overdose they're having. So opioids, just to lay it out, they cover a lot of ground. The newest, biggest concern is fentanyl, which is, originated from hospitals to use it as a painkiller. But it's really, really cheap, and drugs are being cut with fentanyl to get an effect, but micrograms of this stuff can kill you. So you're dealing with people who don't know how to dose it out right, and they're cutting other drugs with it. You don't even know you're getting it most of the time. So, years ago, like, heroin obviously was a big problem, like in the early 2000s, 2010s. It was, the biggest one, but now fentanyl is like surpassed all of the opioids. And then just drugs that we get from any procedure. Like I've taken Vicodin before, like hydrocodone. Those are all opioids too that people get prescribed all the time, and then sometimes people get addicted, or something happens. They're all opioids, and this can save the life for any of those overdoses. So.
Yeah, it's something that I've been very familiar with here in Vancouver, because they have actually like stations set up for people to, with that type of stuff, not Narcan specifically, but things to help them. And it's kind of controversial, because then some people are saying, well, you're using government money to basically help people continue to use drugs. But like you were saying, it can save a life. And it's a very complicated issue, but I think it's great that you're speaking out on this. And I think it is something that needs to be more out there, because we can save some lives and get people on the right track, especially during the pandemic. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize how many people have lost work, how many people are struggling right now. Like, I just see this as nothing as positive, just because nothing but positive, because again, you could potentially save a life here, and everyone, you don't know what people are dealing with behind the scenes, right? We could do a whole podcast on how, people post stuff on social media and everything's fine, but behind the scenes, it could be, people have their own challenges. So it's just, I think it's great that you're out there and promoting that and using your platform to do such a great thing out there, and get the word out there.
Yeah. Like big thing, there's so many different people that have this problem, or, that struggle with these opioids. And it's not just like low lifes that are, just bad people. Like there's a lot of good people that are struggling or get addicted or have a family, like children, a functional job, like people go to work every day, and this is something that just is part of their life, so it's really,
or it can take like 1 or 2 times. So here in Vancouver, we had a pretty famous sports writer pass away just suddenly, like 2 years ago. And it was, they said it was a heart attack or whatever, but then they did the toxology report and they realized he had taken something with fentanyl in it. And this is a guy who you would never think to do something like this. Really happy guy, really, out there or whatever. And it shook this, like Vancouver, I hate to say community, but it's true, the sports community, because he was very well known. People loved him. And just like out of the blue, it's like, yeah, he's passed away. And then there was a lot of question of, oh, why would you mention this, that he had died from this? A lot of people are like, isn't this like, going to make him look bad? But it's like the wife wanted to get the message out there to educate people that, look, this can happen to anybody. Could be struggling with something. It doesn't matter it doesn't have to be your guy hanging out in the corner at Starbucks. It could be someone who has a fully functioning and stable job. It's just people, deal with different things. So yeah, I wanted to point that out, because I think, like you mentioned there, it could happen to anyone, right? So
it really can. And especially when you're doing any other recreational substance, like this can be cut into anything. And another big thing that I learned is any amount of fentanyl mixed with alcohol is deadly. So if, that party scene, like I'm not advocating the party and drugs, blah, 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 but like it happens, it's reality. And when there's alcohol involved, it gets way more deadly. Like it's almost a sure thing that you're going to overdose.
Is it something that it's always been in Canada, or because I've never seen it in California? And if I go into a regular, like,
It's been around for years, and I know it's been very controversial as well because Vancouver specific. Well, I shouldn't say Vancouver, British Columbia, the province. It's been prevalent in the province for years, and I know that there's like other provinces who kind of frown upon it because of the whole. People are like, oh, well, you're encouraging drug use or whatever. But it's been around for a while. Like I won't even say it's been around since I've been in high school, and I don't know if you know, I'm in my mid-30s, so that kind of tells you my age right there. But it's been around for a while.
Now I'm gonna look. Yeah, now I gotta look.
Yeah, I'll send you some links, Jim.
I've never seen it. Like if I'm in a Walgreens or a CVS, I've never seen it in there.
Even there, they just have, it's the government who sets it up. They have like stations, like they even have radio ads for this, or like, like even some of the telecommunications company, we have TELUS here in Canada. They have radio ads going, TELUS is set up, these places in the Lower East Side, because Lower East Side, Vancouver is one of the worst places in Canada, like for drug use, for homelessness, you name it. And they set up these stations and people line up and they get, treatment for, like you said, overdoses. There's just like, the needles, the needle exchange. That's another thing where they'll give clean needles as opposed to dirty needles, because that's another way that people can get, overdose or infections as well.
And that's this is a little bit different because it's not harmful. Like I could give this to a child and it's not going to hurt them type of thing.
Yeah.
It's not, but yeah, what you're talking about is really controversial, but I'm all for it because if you talk to the doctors that are doing it, they have proved data showing that providing this service is actually giving people a routine that they can eventually like track and lower their intake and eventually come off of drugs using this program. So it's like, yeah, you're giving them their fix, but it's actually leading to a recovery in a healthy way. So yeah, I know it's really controversial, but it's something I'm all for, and I wish there was more of that around.
Yeah, before Jim gets to his next question, I'll just clarify. Yeah, so I kind of fubbed a bit there. So basically, I was thinking of the needle exchange, but I know they also do what you were mentioning as well with the overdose stuff. It's a combination of both, but I was sort of thinking in my head more of that. But it's a needle exchange that's been around forever. I think the opioid or the overdose thing is something that's a little bit more recent, but it's in combination with the needle exchange as well, as far as I know. So yeah. Anyways. I know, Jim, you were going to ask Felicia about, I don't know if you saw the message in the chat, but I'll kind of throw this to you then, Jim, is, opioid use in the MMA community, is it pretty prevalent from what you've seen?
Not that I've seen, but I mean, that doesn't mean that, that it's not happening, but it doesn't seem like it. I mean, do you think so,
Felicia? I guess I'll throw it. Yeah, I was going to say, throw it to you, Felicia. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think it's something that's really a problem in like the MMA community, but I think that if you talk to people who are doing we're athletes, we're conscious of what, we're consuming and trying to be world champions, but if you talk to every athlete, I bet you there's someone in their family, that's dealing with this, or, just like any family in America, I'm sure you talk to someone from that family, there's going to be a connection. So I think the community, even though the MMA community might not be directly struggling with opioids, I think a lot of us have a connection to it. And also like being empowered to do something about it is a big part of it, because people just sweep it under the rug all the time. Like, oh, let's just not talk about it. There's nothing you can do to help someone. Well, there is something you can do. It's really tough to figure out what that thing is, and it's different for everybody. But you don't have to just like ignore it, and you can certainly be prepared, to handle an emergency, which is, they're all different facets of the same topic. But
there's been some cases I remember in the past. You remember Caro Parisian, who was supposed to fight Matt Hughes years ago for the title. Caro had to pull out due to an injury, and then that was when he got addicted to opioids, and there was something he talked about, and it kind of derailed his career a bit because he was quite the talent back in the day. If you remember, he was a judo specialist. He's a case. I feel like there's some other fighters that have dealt with this as well, but I'll mention this, and I think this is something you guys will agree on. I know a lot of fighters who use marijuana as a painkiller, and I'm all for that because that's safe. It's and then now you're starting to see the laws change. Jim and I talked about this a few weeks ago. Felicia, actually, I don't even know if you're aware of this. So Elias Theodoro, you remember him, he used to fight in the UFC. He fought 2 weeks ago. I was commentating the card in Victoria, and he's the first athlete in history to get a therapeutic use for marijuana to compete with. So it's big news, because I think a lot of people would agree that it shouldn't be a banned substance. Obviously, you shouldn't be smoking up, during the fight or whatever and being high and that's not what they're saying. But what they're saying is that, if you want to take it the night before or something to sleep, it's not an advantage. If anything, it's there's anti-inflammatory. There's a lot of benefits to that as well. So I'd say marijuana is probably most fighters I know smoke marijuana, from what I know.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not a PED.
Yeah, it's not a PED at all. Unless it's like that Robin Williams joke, right? Because he was making fun of Ross Rebliati. Ross Rebliati used to be he's a Canadian snowboarder. He got his gold medal taken away because he got popped for marijuana. And Robin Williams had this famous joke where he's like, "It's a performance enhancer unless there's a big Snickers bar at the end of the run there for snowboarding. There's no way it can be considered a performance enhancer, right?" So
yeah, I remember that joke. Yeah, definitely. I agree with everything you're saying. It's like certain things just don't make sense about the marijuana thing. But like you said, laws are changing and things are going in the right direction.
Well, like I said, the BC Commission has now allowed that for fighters to get that use. I know USADA's lightening up on that a little bit as well. And we even know just a couple of years ago, CBD oil was something that was considered and is considered legal. For those who don't know, CBD oil is basically, all the properties that you get out of THC marijuana, but you don't get high. But you still get that anti-inflammatory stuff. You get the good sleep. You get the, it's anti-anxiety, all that stuff. There's a lot of benefit. I take CBD oil. It's great. I can't say enough good things about it. And again, it's something you can use and function with, as opposed to, if you're taking marijuana and you're high, you shouldn't be driving. You shouldn't be doing a lot of things when you're doing that, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I know Jim, for example, I know Fluffy Hernandez. I know he partakes in that a lot, and I think it's I know, speaking to him, it's benefited him a lot with the CBD oil and stuff, right? So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so. They all do it. I mean, they all. I don't know anyone on our team that doesn't do it. I mean, the only one that
Aspen though, she's straight edge, right? She doesn't do anything. I think
Marion does. Yeah, she doesn't touch anything, I don't think Marion does either. I think that's probably like the only two. Andrea does, I think, take CBD. Pretty sure. I'm trying to think. Like, yeah, there's not many of them that don't. Like, most of them do.
Well, there's a lot of propaganda out there. I didn't take any marijuana or CBD or any of that until I was in my mid-20s, because growing up, and I don't know how it was for you, Felicia, but like it was considered like, it's a gateway drug and all this stuff. And it was all BS. I mean, I didn't find this out till I was older, but I was like, I'm never going to touch any of that stuff. And now there's a lot of benefits to it. So, I mean, we could do a whole podcast on this, but it's just the kind of the point we're getting at, and it ties into what we were talking about before, is that, this is a better solution than opioids, because opioids can get you addicted. It kills your liver. There's a lot of things that, like long-term, have issues for you. Whereas with marijuana, I feel like there aren't as many long-term issues, and it's far safer than alcohol, in my opinion, too. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, all of what you said is true. If you can avoid.
You hear that, Jim? I'm right every now and then. So make sure you write that down. What about, kind of switching gears here a little bit. I talked about it there. You had that Submission Underground fight. We had Chael Sonnen on a few weeks ago. How was that? Is that something you're interested in doing again, competing in the submission circuit?
Yeah, that was fun. It was a nice change of pace. And it was something I was excited to train for. Like, I hadn't trained for a grappling match in so long. It was definitely that I'd be interested in doing again. And I like the platform that he's built, and the opponent, Amanda Lowen, is like, everything was just fun to be around. We could all be around each other, and it wasn't like tense or it was just a nice, like, pretty low key event that was fun to do, and I would totally love to do that again.
I'd love to see you like grapple some of these other women that aren't in the UFC just to do the matchup. Like, could you imagine like grappling like a Julia Budd, or grappling like like Cyborg, like it's just different style of fight. Like, I think that would be cool, and that's one of the benefits of Submission Underground. It doesn't matter what promotion you compete for, because anyone can sort of go against each other because it's grappling. It's not MMA, right? So
yeah, I think all of those matchups. I mean, it's a fun idea to think of. It's such like it's very similar to what, it's part of what we do, but it's like so focused. It's going to be different and just one part of the game. And like I said, the matchups could be really fun. I think Cyborg is actually doing one with Misha Tate.
That's the rumor. Yeah, I'll ask Cyborg later today on my podcast, but I'll get an update on that. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah. There was something else I was going to mention, and it completely slipped my mind. Jim, do you have any other questions?
I just curious. I think we talked about it a little bit, but what do you think is going to happen? Like, if you don't have to tell me, but do you have more fights still left on your contract because I know Megan, going into her fight, she didn't have any.
Yeah, they had me re-sign a contract before my fight in February last year. So I have at least one or two more after this for sure. I think.
So I mean,
that's
to me, that's some kind of like. So to me, that's some good news, right? Like, I mean, because
yeah,
it's trying to figure this whole thing out, right?
But isn't that also? But hold on, isn't that also because you fought for a title? Like, had you won that fight and you didn't have a contract, I think there would be a lot of red tape because, like, obviously you can renegotiate it, higher payday if you're a champion, right? I would think was that not part of it? Was that because you fought for the title? They had to resign.
But Megan didn't.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, I guess they didn't feel like Megan was going to win. I don't know.
It was before I fought Zara Farron for that February fight. But like part of it is like, oh, then if you fight for the title, then it's this much. And,
gotcha. Okay.
But they tried to get me for a 6-fight deal, and I told them I preferred a 4-fight deal, and so then they ended up taking it. But so yeah, I mean, to me, it was like, oh, this is like a long-term thing. Like they want me for 6 fights, So it's all. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know.
So they're not, but you're not like you're not getting emails as far as like throughout this entire process of you being in the UFC. Have they been like, hey, we're doing this or whatever? Like, have you been, or have you sort of been kept in the dark with the division?
I pretty much find stuff out when you guys find stuff out, unless it's involving me directly. Like when Megan made that comment and said the division was
going
closing,
away.
My phone blew up with journalists like, is this true? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. By the way, that was handled like, okay, so I kind of had an issue with that where, Megan did. I mean, I'm sure. Okay, look, if Megan said it, I'm sure there's some truth to it. I hate to say it, not to be the bearer of bad news here, Felicia, but at the same time, like Megan got really mad at the person who leaked that. She said this on a stream. So she got mad at this journalist who like said, oh, Megan said this, blocked him, all this stuff. Someone that I know had worked like well together with like Megan in the past. And she's dealt with this with other, I had an issue with Megan a couple years ago as well, actually with your fight. I can tell that story sometime later, but but my thing is like, you don't even work for the UFC anymore. What are you worried about if you did spill those beans? It's not like you were going back, right? If you were going back to the UFC, they would have re-signed you. I don't think there was a inkling of her re-signing with the UFC because I think that would have been done before the Nunes fight. So I didn't like that where she kind of got mad at everyone, but it's like, then don't say it on a stream. Like, what do you expect? It's public forum. Like, it's not something that's hidden, So I don't know. I didn't like that, but I did remember what my question was. And I don't think I've asked you this before. What is your best story with Seth Petrozelli? Because Seth, as people know, was the man who upset Kimbo Slice, the Gus Johnson, the famous call, Rocky. Any cool stories with Seth? Because I know he's a bit of a character.
I can't think of one, but I mean, he's definitely always wild. Like he used to throw parties at his house all the time. Like every holiday was a party at his house. And, I don't know. I feel like there's always like some partial nudity at the house or like just always some antics.
Okay. Does he still dye his hair, by the way? I know he used to do that a lot.
He shaves it. But really, like nowadays, it's usually just all of us kind of like pulling pranks on him and like, just kind of terrorizing him a little bit because he gets, he gets how he gets a little worked up and like you can get him riled up pretty good and like nervous about stuff. He's very like concerned about, just like things in general. He's a very anxious, concerned person. So it's like, we just kind of like tease him all the time.
How's Megan Colley doing, by the way? I haven't heard from her in a while. I know she's had a rough start to her career, but I imagine she's still in the gym and probably looking for her next fight, or what's the latest with her?
She's actually been training with Fusion. So
okay, gotcha. Did a bit of
like no bad blood with the jungle, but she wanted to just kind of have a different change of scenery while staying in Orlando. She's doing good. Our dogs are still married, so we have play dates all the time.
Married? Can you explain this? What happened there? Was there a ceremony?
Yeah, what is going on here? What's going on here?
Well, my dog and her dog are they hang out all the time, so we get to have little play dates, and she comes over and they, terrorize each other, and it's fun. But yeah, she was supposed to fight last weekend, 2 weeks ago. But her opponent, I guess, didn't sign the contract, or she's having a little bit of a hard time, like finding a matchup right now, the right matchup, someone that's on the same like record. But her record doesn't really show her skill, and I think people see that. So people who are like getting presented are like, no, I don't really want to fight her. She's really good, that kind of thing. So hopefully she'll get something lined up next month, and
High
we'll
risk,
see
high
out
risk,
there.
low reward type thing. Like a high
Yeah,
risk,
like she's 0-2
high
as a
risk,
pro right
low
now.
reward type thing.
Could be,
Yeah, because she's 0-2 right now.
that's
So
kinda
it's
one of
like,
those things.
the record that you would match up an 0-2 fighter with is not going to be like the best fighter probably, but you see video of her and you're like, oh yeah, like she's actually a lot better than her record
Yeah.
shows, so it's kind of like it's tough. So, but hopefully things will get turned around and she can get some good performances soon.
Are you going to do any cross training at all? Because I know that's something we've talked about in the past. Florida, there's a lot of different gyms out there. I know we got a pandemic going on, but is that something you've considered just to, diversify things a little bit?
I've jumped over to, to Fusion a couple times. Like, I don't do it much because, like, when they train, it kind of interferes with when I want to train sometimes. But it's all good blood, good. I'm welcome
Fun
there.
fact, James.
I've been training with the.
Yep.
Fun fact.
What?
I said fun fact, James. I have actually reached out to Felicia about a year or two ago to cross train with Aspen.
Cool.
Back.
Yeah, and I
What
thought
happened,
about
Jim? She shot you down?
She shot me down. Yeah, no, I don't remember exactly what happened. I don't.
I was still working at that time too, so things were just really.
Yeah, you're busy. Plus, it's not like you can just, hop in a car and go to California. Like, you're on the opposite end of the globe, right? Or in the U.S., right?
But, if it's still, if things are going good, I love Aspen. I don't know her, but I love, like, her personality and, like, everything she shows. And I would love to come train, like, especially part of my goal. So I have a lot of, like, anxiety about training other places. Just like, I don't know, I just feel like such a homebody that I get really anxious going anywhere. So part of my goal was, I should travel. I really wanted to go to, like, New York and California, and I had you guys in mind, actually. And I was like, this would be great to cross train and kind of, like, break that barrier down and, like, stop being so anxious about it.
Well, it's a sign, Felicia. It's a sign.
So hard.
Yeah, just bring your husband.
What's that?
Yeah. Bring your husband, and I said bring your husband and make a trip out of it.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That would be interesting. Because, Aspen's almost Canadian, I feel like. She's very polite. She likes the outdoors, all that stuff, right? So I think you guys would get along great. You know what, Felicia, do you like hiking? Because Aspen has these insane hikes where she hikes for like 8 hours.
I love watching her pictures and videos.
Don't get Felicia, let me tell you a little secret. Aspen's known as a verb to her team because you're like, oh my God, we just got Aspen today. And they get bamboozled into these hikes. Like every once in a while, but she got like 12 of them to go one time. And she was like, oh yeah, it's just going to be this easy one. It's like 4 miles in, just kind of meander around, 15 miles later, uphill both ways. The guys are like half dead when they get back. They're like, oh my, I'm never doing this again. So she bamboozles people. She's like, oh yeah, this is not going to be that big of a deal. And then you're dead for 2 days after.
Yeah,
I still want to do one, Jim. I'm serious. Like I'll mentally, physically prepare myself. I'll make sure I'm hydrated. I want to do one of these hikes because I just want to do the challenge of it,
No, dude, you have to prepare yourself. Like she'll ask me to go. I'll go every once in a while, right? But I have to mentally prepare myself for like a week. It's like going into a fight. Like, okay, I gotta get ready. I gotta make sure I got this. Like you have to be prepared to do these things.
Plus, you can't look like a wuss in front of Aspen,
like
Jim, right?
7,000 feet. Yeah.
At least my husband.
Well, I do.
My husband doesn't like
walking
that much.
So I'll tell you this. I don't know if I've told you the story, Jim, but when my wife and I were doing a trip in Newfoundland a couple of years ago, we did a 12-hour hike. I kid you not. It was like you started at 7 a.m. We had a guide. We went through the forest, all this stuff, went up the mountain, all that, and we finished it. And I just couldn't believe I got through it. It was nuts. So I think if I can do that, I could probably do this.
Just like the other day. Yeah. James, the other day, she was super excited about it. Like her young brother, Shayla, she goes, hey, I want to do a 20-miler today. And Aspen's like, oh yeah, sure. Like, this is no problem. Like, are you kidding? Like, this would take me 3 days to do this. I'm like, you get out of here with this. Yeah, no, they're insane.
Yeah. No,
I hope you go
interesting.
James. I'll leave you
What's
out
that?
there. I hope you go. You just leave you out there for the Bears.
No, that's fine. Once these borders open up, we'll figure something out. Yeah, and one of the things that Jim and I kind of talked about as well on this show is you're a product of Invicta, and Jim and I sort of always talk about this, that the best women fighters are the ones that have gone through Invicta because they get those tough matchups early on in their career. And that way, when they get to the UFC, like in your case, they're battle tested. Do you agree with that? Do you feel like Invicta is very crucial for a lot of the women fighters just to, before they get in the UFC to kind of make that jump?
I'm a big supporter of Invicta and what they've done. I mean, Shannon has put together like just a good platform to like you said, to build a fighter with not only the matchups, but the whole fight week experience, media day, the whole weigh-in process is very similar. Like all of that is so similar to the UFC that I felt like it was just another Invicta fight almost. It was, I'm a big fan.
That's what I always say.
I'm actually wearing an Invicta shirt right now.
There you go.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I always say that. Like, think about the girls that go into the UFC from Invicta. And then think about the females that go into the UFC not Invicta. Like, it's night and day, in my opinion, the caliber of that. The girls that go in to the UFC that didn't go through Invicta, they just don't do that well. They just don't.
Yeah, Jim's two favorite fighters never fought for Invicta, right? You know which ones I'm talking about? Macy Barber, Juliana Pena. I don't think either fought for Invicta, right?
Well, Juliana is not going to be able to hide much longer. I'm telling you right now. Just watch the news. You're going to see something pretty soon. She can't hide forever. She keeps trying. You ain't hiding too much longer, Juliana.
What do you think of that, actually, Felicia? So Pena obviously wants to fight Amanda Nunes next. She came off that win over Sarah McMahon, but I want to remind people she lost the fight before. Like, I think that's where I kind of disagree with her wanting to fight Nunes. I know it's a fresh matchup, but what do you think of that? Do you think she has a case here? Because she has lost to very tough girls, but at the same time, like, she just beat Sarah McMahon, who, has been submitted before. I don't know. That's kind of how I look at it.
I think there's a lot of ways to look at it. Like some people say, like, well, anyone who's asking to fight Amanda deserves to be like heard, Mm-hmm. But I mean, Amanda needs to have a matchup next, So I think I've heard, like, I don't know if it was from you, Jim, or someone else saying Aspen and Juliana should fight, and then the winner takes Amanda. That's an interesting.
That's what
idea.
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, because Juliana and Aspen and Juliana were supposed to fight. Right they were supposed to fight. Juliana and Aspen were supposed to fight twice already. Yeah. And that's why I say, Juliana, you can only run for so long. Just keep watching the news. Something's going to pop up, because you're not getting away for too much longer, Juliana Pena.
Yeah, I mean, it's good what she's doing, trying to get the map, trying to, talk. I mean, I feel like she's getting, like, I don't know, like, she had that rant with Ariel, and I'm like, all for, like, go ahead, promote yourself, do your thing. But, like, why are you, like, shitting on everyone?
Yeah, that's fine.
Why are you doing that? Like, you could have just, why didn't you go to 45 and fight Amanda that way? Like, it was there. You could have fought us at 45 and fought Amanda next. Like, I don't know. I'm all for, like, I don't really know
her. I just don't like her arrogance.
Yeah, like, I get what she's trying to do, so I don't really know her, and I can't really, like, pass judgment too much, but I was like, why are you just shitting all over me because you didn't get to fight Amanda and I did? Like, sorry.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about that? I was promoting myself. You're promoting yourself.
Exactly.
So, anyway, so more power to her, I guess.
Yeah, the promotion part, I don't disagree with you on that. Yeah. I don't disagree with you with that, Felicia. I mean, she's saying she wants to fight. Yeah, she wants to fight Amanda. Cool, great, whatever.
Yeah. And I agree. I don't think Amanda should have fought me. I thought it was weird that Amanda fought 45 twice. I thought she should have gone to 35 in between, but that's not my problem. Like, that's not my decision either. So what am I going to do about it?
Dean D in the chat is asking, what network will Invicta FC be on? We have no idea. I think we're going to find out here pretty soon, but I've said this before. I think it's a bad move that they're off Fight Pass. I don't know whose decision that was, but for a Canadian like myself, it's very easy to watch stuff on Fight Pass. You don't have to worry about geo-block restrictions or anything. So hopefully they get on something that's, worldwide in terms of the viewing, because there's a lot of fans of Invicta. So
yeah, I don't know. I'm curious also. It seems like they've had a lot of their talent go to the UFC and then to PFL also. So hopefully things are going good.
Yeah. No, we'll see what happens there. What else do you got coming up for the rest of the week here, Felicia? Are you getting any downtime at all? Or I guess just, we're not, the fight's a month and a bit away. So a couple months away. So how are you sort of, approaching these next few weeks and leading into the fight?
Well, I've been training already, like a pretty decent schedule. So I'm gonna just like make a few adjustments starting this week actually, with just like doing a few different different types of training sessions and just intermixing them a little bit. But I feel like I don't want to go too hard either this camp. I want to like really try to understand the whole overtraining side and not really kill myself, because I don't think I need to do that. Not because I'm overlooking Danyelle at all, but because I think I've just gotten to the point where I'm 30 years old now. I don't think I need to kill myself every fight camp to get the progress that I want. I don't think I can hear my dog.
We were talking about that not too long ago, James. I was mentioning. Yeah, I can hear him. But I think James and I were talking about that not too long ago. I don't remember who it was with. It might have been with Chael, but you get to a certain level, like yourself, Felicia, or anyone in the UFC really that's been there for a while. You're not learning to fight anymore. You're not learning to fight. You don't need to learn what it's like to get punched in the face. It's more of just honing what you do and kind of understanding the tendencies of who you're about to fight and keeping your body healthy, conditioning, that type of thing. And you don't have to kill yourself anymore. You know what I mean? It's not purposeful. It's just in my opinion. So
I think I'm at that phase where I don't feel bad about making that decision to be like, no, I'm not going to do that today. Like, I'm just going to go for a jog or, do sprints or something different, So,
by the way, before we go, something we didn't talk about. Did you see Juliana Stolarenko fall on the scale twice because of weight cutting? What did you guys think of that? That was pretty scary. And then they ended up canceling the fight with her and Julia Avila. Oh yeah, that's right. Of course, yeah.
I was there. I was sitting in the back.
How bad was it?
In the back. I was because we had Max and Marion, on that same card. Well, we were just sitting in the back, and all of a sudden we just heard like this big crash, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. And then everyone started kind of scurrying around, and then we realized it was Julia falling out, off of the scale. I don't know. I mean, obviously, no matter any weight cut is not fun. They're not easy. You feel like shit. All of those things, right? Which I think it's a whole nother discussion. I think weight cutting is archaic, but and I think it's stupid. But at the same time, I think it probably was partly obviously cutting weight and then the lights being hot and all those types of things that got up too quick. I mean, there's just a lot of things that went around that kind of thing. And I think a lot of people always jump to the first thing. Well, she needs to get a better professional, teaching her how to cut weight. Look, you can have the best professional in the world. Weight cut is still going to be shitty. And sometimes, each weight cut's a little bit different. Maybe you took salt out too early, or maybe you cut, dehydrated for too long or whatever. I just don't like, hearing that like it was someone else's fault. No, weight cutting's shitty. It sucks. It's not easy ever. And, that's why I think weight cutting's stupid. But anyway.
And we have a two-part question from Dean in the chat kind of on that. First, Dean says he can't believe that you're 30 years old. He said he thought you were much younger. And second, Dean says, have you ever had a bad weight cut?
I think I got most. Well, I mean, like Jim said, they all feel like they're bad weight cuts because they're horrible. But I feel like I worked out the weight cuts during the amateur career pretty well. But I mean, I think I was really not concerned. My weight cut took the longest when I made my UFC debut and I fought Megan. It was like I got my weigh in like the last 10 or 15 minutes of the morning. So I was like I knew it would come off and it was just taking longer. So, that type of stuff. But I don't know, I think as an amateur, it was just kind of figuring stuff out. And I did fight a lightweight for most of my amateur career. So it was a little bit, I mean, it was still a weight cut and I was still figuring it out. So it sucked always. Yeah.
Okay.
Probably worse was when I went to New Orleans and I was like my fourth fight. And it was the first time I really traveled far. And like, I didn't really like start the process soon enough, just kind of walking around New Orleans. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably cut weight now. Like, shit.
Felicia, thanks so much for doing this. It was great having you on. Always good catching up with you. If there's anything you want to plug, any social media, any sponsors, anything at all, NORCAN as well, we can talk about that. I'll give you the floor here.
Yeah, thanks. Well, you can find me on social media at FeeNom479. Just want to thank everyone at the gym that's helping me get ready for this fight, and you guys, all the media that are taking interest in the fighters. And my longest supporter, of course, the Other Side MMA, about them. still, making and selling hand wraps that are like nothing you've ever tried. So you can find the links in my social media for sure to try it out.
Did you hear that, Jim? She called you media. How does that sound? How does it feel to be a media member now?
I don't know how I feel about this.
What do you got? I think you get a break this week, don't you, Jim? You don't have any fighters competing. Oh no, sorry. We just talked about it. You're going with Shaler this weekend. So yeah, when do you get a break, or is it just here on out?
Yes, we have four regional guys on the Logan, Utah Mountain Force 27. So I'll be there this week. Leave Thursday to be there, and then we have Bellator in April. Our one of our guys from Aruba, so he'll be there, and then Andrea Lee in May. So I mean, there's some breaks. It's not like March where every week I was in Vegas. So there's some breaks. So that's good.
Good stuff.
But I'm just happy that the regional fights are coming back.
Oh, same. I love regional MMA. I just talked to a handful of amateur fighters or some regional guys yesterday. They're the best interviews in my opinion. Felicia knows that. You were on the regional scene when we started doing our interviews, so it's a lot of fun. Follow me on Twitter @LynchOnSports. I just interviewed Curtis Blades yesterday. Everyone go check it out. It's his first interview since the loss to Derek Lewis. Really good stuff from Curtis, including that idiot fan who called him. Did you guys see? I mean, Jim, we talked about this. Felicia, did you know that some fan called Curtis Blades after and told him that he got knocked the F out? Like, what's wrong with people, man? So we talked about that and everything else. So that was good. Also talked to Sodiq Youssef yesterday. He's going to be in the co-main event of that Darren Till and Marvin Vittori card coming up here pretty soon. And yeah, that's about it for me. Always got to thank producer Amanda for setting this up. Want to give her a shout out as well. Amanda England, one of the best in the business when it comes to MMA behind the scenes. And that's it for us. We'll be back here a week today on Victory Loves Company. I want to thank everyone for watching. If you guys have any questions, just post them in the comments. We'll get to them when we can. And hope you guys have a great, and girls, have a great rest of your week and great rest of your day. Thanks so much for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Felicia.